Hey everybody, List of Legends here. Today we're diving back into the world of Total Drama by talking about every single Total Drama character, including their Ridonculous Race, because, you know, why not? We hit over 1,000 subscribers, which, thanks again for the support, guys. It really does mean a lot. Without further ado, be sure to smash that like and subscribe button like you're punching out Mal or Dave, or whatever character you hate, honestly. Without further interruptions, let's begin. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is just talk about the first generation cast all the way up to the Ridonculous Race. Obviously, I won't go too in depth because I don't want to keep anyone here all day, so let's just get started. First up, we have Ezekiel, and honestly, I'm not that much of a fan of his character, human or not. I know a lot of people really do like him, but unfortunately, I do not. And it seems everyone in Total Drama didn't as well, considering he always got the first boot. Then they just turned him into a zombie, which got stale by Revenge of the Island, so yeah, not the biggest fan of Zeke. Next up, we have Cody. He was alright, you know, certainly had his moments with the dodgeball electric missile, got to the final 3 in World Tour as well, even though mostly due to Sierra, but overall, not a bad character at all. Now getting to Beth, I didn't really like her at all. She's not the worst of the worst, but making her into the finale in action I just think was absolutely stupid, so you know, not a fan of Beth. Getting into 2 characters, I absolutely cannot stand Katie and Sadie. I'm sorry, I brutally cannot stand them. I'm putting them together because they're basically the same character to me. All they did was squeal. I really don't know why Sadie made it farther than Katie because she had barely any relevancy or lines at all during her very small extra time on the show. So you know, it's no wonder why they're on my top 8 worst characters list. I genuinely cannot stand them. Getting back to better than average, we have Lashana. I absolutely loved her moments, especially on one-upping Heather. She wasn't afraid of really anyone, and it's a real shame she didn't come back in All-Stars, especially after getting manipulated by Alejandro. Seriously, such a shame. Next, we have Trent. He was basically the guitar guy that was friends with everyone. I really liked Trent a lot. He was a good character. His relationship with Gwen was really nice to see play out. It all just felt really genuine. Everything about him was perfect, all up until his number 9 obsession. Plus, he got played by Heather. But all in all, definitely one of the better contestants for sure. Stepping into comical relief, we have Tyler. Really great character, had a lot of funny moments, especially with Alejandro. Am I right? But no, in all seriousness, in my opinion, he was the funniest character of the whole series, aside from maybe Noah's one-liners. Speaking of Noah, he's up next. As I said, great one-liners, especially in World Tour. I loved his friendship with Owen and dating relationship with Emma. I really wish he would have been more in Island, but as is, he's still a really great character, with a lot of character development, especially in Ridonculous Race, I gotta say. Again, speaking of the devil, we have Owen. He's everyone's favorite goofball. He's basically the face of Total Drama. You know, he's an alright character to me. You know, he had a really lot of gross out humor moments, but his relationship with Izzy and his friendship with Noah evens the scale for me. He did have a lot of cool moments, especially in the dodgeball episode where he turned into a complete powerhouse. So if I had to rate Owen's character, I'd give him a solid B-. Eva is another character that I didn't really like all that much. She had potential, yes, but they threw it all away. So all she does is get really mad, and targets only Bridget for no reason when she returns to the island in the episode No Pain No Gain. So that's a D- for you, Eva. Now let's talk about Jeff the Party Dude. Had a great relationship with Bridget and co-hosted the Aftermath show with her. Even though I like the Aftermath show a lot, I still wish we got to see him compete more in action, but they definitely made up for it when they had him come back in the Ridonculous Race. And actually he won the season, so big thumbs up to the GOAT Jeff. His girl Bridget follows soon after, and I'm really glad they brought her back in World Tour to compete, even though Alejandro got rid of her pretty quickly. But still, they brought her back, and as a character, she's definitely one of the most chillest girls in the entire series for sure. Turning things up a notch, we have Justin. Definitely had wasted potential as an antagonist, especially in action. Just so many opportunities missed with this guy. But for what he did accomplish, he managed to get his team to do stuff for him. Almost got Izzy to hand him the $1 million in the final episode of Total Drama Island just by his looks alone. So I'll give him credit for that and place him as a B-tier character. Turning things to geeky dorky territory, we have Harold. He had such a great personality. It's so satisfying to see him get his revenge on Duncan by giving Courtney the boot, thanks to him rigging the votes. His performance in Dodgeball was off the charts, so much so that he won the challenge for the Killer Bass. He successfully picked a lock underwater too. You know, I could honestly go on and on about Harold, so I'll just say this. He's an A tier character easily. Man, maybe I should have done a tier list. I'll have to do that sometime down the road. Next, let's talk about Mean Queen Heather. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, S tier character. Dominated most of Total Drama Island, and managed to win / be a runner-up in World Tour as well. I think her strategic performance overall in the game speaks for itself. Solid character, nothing else to say. Bad Boy Duncan makes it up next. Again, easily one of the best characters of all time. Manages to win / be a runner-up in Total Drama Action. I loved how he's deemed a delinquent but still had a small soft spot. An example being when he finds DJ a new bunny. He had a relationship with Courtney and Gwen, resulting in a weird love triangle, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. Not even going to talk about how things went from an all-star, since that was just a big mess. Time for the goth girl Gwen to shine. She didn't really care about anything but winning the money, then started to fall for Trent, which they had a relationship, all up until Trent started being weird with the whole number 9 obsession. Even throwing challenges for her. Unfortunately, it doesn't end well with Gwen starting to date Duncan instead, which also ends pretty badly, by the way. I'm not even going to count her kissing Cameron at the end of All Stars, because I don't think that should really count, because we don't know how the relationship was going to go. But either way, the season sucked. We don't need to talk anything beyond that. So though, Gwen as a character, she was awesome. Courtney is also a character I'm pretty fond of. She makes it decently far every time. I'm still hoping she'll win a season someday. But still, she was a fierce competitor, played the game to her advantage pretty well, for the most part at least, to where she even sued the show so that Chris had to give her special treatment, and letting her come back in the middle of Total Drama Action so she had more of a chance. Based on Duncan's ending, it looks like she was going to get at least some of his money, so you know, I'll take what I can get. Now we have the lovable lame brain Lindsay. She grew so much as a character, and it's also amazing to see go down. She gets played by Heather through a good chunk of Island, then she finally figures out Heather's true intentions, so she stands up for herself and tells Heather off. Definitely one of the most iconic moments of all Total Drama. Action, she also had great development with her taking charge, even if it was for a couple episodes. World Tour, she remembers Tyler and her, you know, had a relationship or whatever, so they continued their dating relationship. I've seen some people say online that they confirmed they broke up off screen, which if that's true, that completely sucks, and I really don't even want to consider that canon, obviously, if I don't want to. Going down to Crazy Town, we have Izzy. She was an okay character, you know, not the best, not the worst by any means. She had a wide variety of skills, and had great moments fighting Chef Hatchet, and her relationship with Owen was interesting to see play out. But to me, there were definitely other characters I would favor a lot more. DJ was a great character, 100%. His alliance with Chef was kinda weird. In Island, he loved animals too, and helping other contestants. The only thing that really sucked was how they turned him into a complete mama's boy in Action World Tour. But other than that, you know, solid character. Since it is every Total Drama character after all, I guess I have to talk about Blaney, even though I really don't want to. Horrible character, thought she was better than everyone else, got Chef to help her cheat again, but eventually she gets found out by Heather. Literally the definition of a rich snob. Overall, Blaney is a horrible character. I would have her on my worst Total Drama characters list if I had actually remembered her. That's just how bad she is. I completely forgot about her. She is just that bad. Time to talk about Sierra. Boy oh boy, I hate her character. Her stalker personality got so overdone by the halfway point of World Tour. They could have had her use her vast knowledge of the show. That could have been really useful, but they don't really do any of that. The only thing she does is carry Cody all throughout the season. She does make it to the Final Four though, and gets booted only because she blew up the plane. So I'll admit she does put in work, but her character as a whole, I just didn't like at all. Lastly, let's talk about the great, phenomenal Alejandro. Such a great character. He manipulated people through his looks and charm, basically Justin, but much better. Unlike Heather, who was upfront and pretty straightforward with her manipulation, Alejandro was all behind the scenes with his schemes, and it's what made him the ultimate Total Drama villain and character for me. Now let's talk about the second generation cast, starting with Stacy, the girl who lied about her family history for a whole 23 minutes. She's total fodder and filler in my opinion. Her character is just completely pointless. Like, is there anyone out there that actually considers her a good character? Seriously, I'd love to know why down in the comments if you are a fan of her. Next up is Dakota. She's kinda mad at me. Once they turn her into a toxic waste mutant, all it does is just become too gimmicky for me. Her relationship with Sam was honestly the only thing that kept her at all relevant to me. She was basically the rich girl that got spoiled way too much, and that was the highlight of her character. Of course, until she becomes a mutant. Wonder if her and Sam are still a thing. I'm honestly curious to see. Time for Mr. Multiple Personalities Mike. I will give them some credit for wanting Mike to stand out, but the only thing that kinda doesn't make any sense to me is how he got lightning levels of strength when turning into Vito. It just seemed way over the top. Same with Svetlana, and don't get me started on Mal. Chester was okay, but Mike as Mike was pretty cool in my opinion. His relationship with Zoe was also really nice and genuine to watch, so all in all, Mike's better than okay in my book. Following Mike, we have his girlfriend, Zoe. I really enjoyed her in Revenge of the Island. Commando Zoe was interesting to say the least. When Mike got the boot, she kinda lost herself, but at least it felt genuine, unlike All Stars. In that season, it was basically her crying out for Mike like every 2 seconds, "Oh, Mike!" Overall, she was described as a lonely child, but had some incredible athletic skills that helped her come out on top in the final 3 of Revenge of the Island, and she was a winner/runner-up in All Stars, even though All Stars kinda sucked. What I mean by kinda, I mean a lot. As for Anne Maria, honestly, I'm not much of a fan of her. She tried to have a relationship with Mike/Vito. Other than that, she kinda just sat there messing with her hair. I don't necessarily hate her character, I just don't see the hype in her, if you know what I mean. Now we have Dawn. She's a little bit better, but not by much. She can see people's auras. Other than that, and her briefly telling Zoe that the Mike part of him actually likes Zoe, she doesn't do all that much. I know a lot of people really like her, but the honest truth is that she doesn't do anything. She's not the worst character by any means, but she's just overhyped. I don't know why. I don't even know how I ever put her on my underrated characters list. Honestly, maybe just because I felt bad. When she's literally the exact opposite. Honestly, I would deem her overrated. Next up is Shell Lightning, the strongest of the strongest, making it all the way to the finale of Revenge of the Island. He was certainly a fierce competitor. The only flaw he really had was the lack of any brain power. I absolutely loved his character. He was strong and had a lot of funny moments, like him thinking Joe was a guy. All in all, really great funny character for sure. Now we have Cameron the Bubble Boy, pretty much the exact opposite of Lightning. He had no physical strength whatsoever, but he had almost Jimmy Neutron level of brain power. So much so he built an Iron Man suit in the finale of Revenge of the Island. All Stars, not much to say. The season sucked, along with most of the characters getting derailed, but his prime was certainly in Season 4. He's not an S tier character, but he's a character I actually liked a lot. Another pretty smart fella, we have B. I absolutely loved his character. For a little screen time we got, he was just putting in work. I say it every time, but he made a rocket couch to help his team get to the top of the mountain, and he uses an ice mirror to melt the other team's snow castle. I do like his no talk shtick, but since B doesn't speak, it made him impossible to stand up for himself against Scott, which unfortunately that's why he got the boot. Leveling up on the list, we have Sam the Gamer. Even though I've said in the past multiple times he shouldn't have been an All-Stars, as a character, he's not too bad. He had a relationship with Dakota, and his attempt to save Lindsay from the giant gorilla was pretty cool, with the whole turning real life into a video game kind of thing. So you know, he's not bad of a character, but I will say though, he really shouldn't have been an All-Stars. Sorry, Sam. Moving on to another character, we have Scott from Revenge of the Island, and he's also the main antagonist this season. In my eyes, at least I liked how Scott turned the tables with his strategy being to sabotage the challenges to put people on his own team a lot faster. He also managed to find the McClane invincibility statue and blackmailed Mike to get him through Grand Chef Otto. All Stars, they basically scaled down his villain aspect and focused on him trying to have a relationship with Courtney, which didn't work out too well. Overall, a solid villain, especially in Revenge. Getting to Jo, she was like a female Lightning, but she had a bit more brain power. She had a good rivalry with Brick, and it was really nice to see it play out. She's not one of my favorites, but she performed well in Revenge of the Island. Also, she just kinda bickers with Heather about being in charge, so not much else to say there. Lastly, we have my favorite contestant from Revenge of the Island, we have Brick. His military background allowed him to have great leadership skills, and as I just said before, he had a great rivalry with Jo. Brick put everyone's safety above himself, the prime example being when he saved everyone in the cave before it collapsed, even if it meant sacrificing the win and himself in the game. Dude 100% deserved to be an All-Stars. Period. Welp, time for Generation 3, which unfortunately there's a lot of characters that are just so unlikable here, so let's just get this over with. Starting things out, we have Beardo, a guy who just makes cartoony sound effects instead of talking. Basically, he's a stupider B from Revenge of the Island. At least B was smart and did stuff. Beardo does absolutely nothing and gets the first boot, so it's well deserved there. Leonard, pretty much same thing. His whole premise, his whole entire thing is he is a wizard, at least in his eyes. and he slows down his team by chanting random wizard spells. As I've said before, if you want to add a cosplay character, that's fine and all, but at least have him know the difference between fantasy and reality, because this guy sucked. Moving on, we have Ella, a singer who can tame animals just by her singing. I'm pretty neutral to her, although I did feel bad seeing her get turned down by Dave, and Sugar bullying her, and even Chris banning her from singing altogether. She certainly got the short end of the stick, I do have to say. Getting to Sky, she was more or less a copy of Zoe in my opinion, with both having the same athletic skills and build. Her relationship with Dave started out okay, but then it progressively got more and more annoying, with Dave losing it. But as far as Sky goes, she's alright. Out of anyone this season, she was certainly one of the only characters that looked like she could actually make it to the finale, so you know, I'll give her that. Following Sky, we have Whiny Dave. Horrible character. He is my second worst total drama character, with Mal being the first. As I said, at first he was actually a pretty good character. He got to know everyone and called out Leonard and Beata for accomplishing absolutely nothing, but then after his crush on Sky came to light, he just completely fell apart. I wouldn't even know how they could remotely even redeem this guy. He's just so far, he's just too far gone. Like, there's no other way I'm going to say it. Max to me was good at his job of being comical relief, however sometimes I felt like they overdid it a bit with his mermaid man, I'm evil, haha kind of thing. He did have evil plans, but Scarlet sort of made those plans possible, so all in all his character was all comical relief, so in that aspect he was an alright character. I just wish he accomplished a lot more, you know, on his own and not more so Scarlet helping him, but you know, as is, he's not that bad. Now we have the actual evil version of Max, Scarlet. She kept her true evil side hidden for the most part of the season, and during that time, she basically helped Max bring his plans to life, one being wrapping the wire with the electric eel to shock Ella, or popping Team Musquat's balloons of dooms onto themselves. To me, she would have been a great villain if they revealed her evil side earlier on, and not in the same episode she gets eliminated in. Moving down the evil ladder, we have Amy, and she's so bland, and she's literally evil and a bully to her sister Sammy for absolutely no reason. I absolutely hated her character with a passion. She didn't focus on the game at all, and I really hope she doesn't return for a future season. That's all I'm gonna say. On the other hand, we have her much better sister Sammy. She was a much better character, had a lot more good moments too, especially with Jasmine, and seeing her stand up for herself against Amy and taking her place in the competition was so cool, and great, even if it was for a short time, so I'm gonna give her bonus points for that. Really great character. Next is Topher, the biggest fan of the show, or more specifically, the biggest fan of Chris. It seems they took elements from Sierra with her whole stalker personality, but this time they had him try to take over Chris's job as host of the show. He even stole Chris's cell phone to contact the producers and convinced them that Chris just got too old for the show. Overall, I would say he's just an okay character. If he focused more on the game, I would probably rate him a lot higher, but for now, honestly, I give him a 6 out of 10 at most. Rodney, I absolutely loved his design. He to me looks like a bigger version of Scott, both having lived on a farm, but their personalities couldn't be more different. Rodney legit fell in love with any girl that talked to him in a friendly way. Like Mike, I get they wanted to make these characters stand out, but it just completely ruined them for me. Next is supposedly Pockatail Island's main antagonist, Sugar. I say supposedly because I don't see how. The only thing she really does is manipulate Sky and Dave, and then bullied Ella. She was also a much worse, grosser version of Owen in my opinion. Generally, I couldn't stand her character one bit, and that's the honest truth. Getting to one of the only characters I actually liked a lot is Jasmine. She comes from Australia and is incredibly strong. Her relationship with Sean had a lot of ups and downs, but ultimately, she and Sean were literally the only reason I could watch this season. Ultimately, she made it to the final 4, and I'm really glad she made it decently far. Lastly, my favorite character from this season is of course Sean. Sean had a wide variety of survival skills, specifically to prepare for the zombie apocalypse. In turn, this made him a really fierce competitor this season. He knew which berries were safe to eat, excellent camouflage skills, and like Jasmine had incredible physical strength and impressive fighting capabilities, as we see him take down the zombie robot army of Chris. By far the best character out of the season. I can't stress that out enough. Now we are at the Ridonculous Race lineup of characters. Since this series has its contestants compete in teams of 2, I think it would be a lot easier just for me to talk about them in a team order. So starting off, we have the Adversity Twins, Jay and Mickey. By far one of the worst characters this season, but I will say it was pretty cool to see Cameron's original design, so I'll give them that. But all in all, they just heavily annoy me every time they're on my TV screen. I'm sorry, but you know, it is what it is. Leonard and Tammy, also known as the LARPers, are one of the lamest teens of the show. I hated Leonard in Pockettail Island, and I absolutely hated him in the Ridonculous Race. Tammy is basically the female version of Leonard. She too thinks she can actually use magical, powers or whatever, and be a real life wizard. The only thing I liked about them this season was they came in dead last. Tom and Jen, the fashion vloggers, they are so in over their heads that they believe because of their online status they'll win effortlessly. To me, they just felt so boring and out of place, but I wouldn't go as far to say they were terrible characters, and according to the wiki, the pair are named after the series creators, Tom McGillis and Jennifer Perch. So, that's pretty cool. Next up, we have the father and son team, and I actually enjoyed this pair a lot. Their father-son relationship really felt so genuine. You have Dwayne Sr. trying to be the cool dad, while of course Jr. finding it all to be very embarrassing. It's all just really nice to see the relationship grow stronger and stronger, especially as the season progresses. Lori and Miles, some of these characters I genuinely forgot their names just because of how forgettable they really were. Anyways, their whole world revolves around Mother Nature, so in some ways similar to Dawn and DJ, except as I said, they're very forgettable characters. I don't know what else to say other than, they're very forgettable. Like, that's the honest truth. Next is the Step Brothers team, Chet and Lorenzo. Basically a much more rabid version of Drake and Josh. Seriously, all they would do is argue and fight about every little thing, but it was actually pretty entertaining. And seeing the two come together at the end just felt so rewarding to watch. Two very great characters that work very well off each other. Time to rock and roll with the Rockers team, Rock and Spud. Again, two very great characters. Rock to me felt like the leader of the two, while Spud was constantly portrayed as being the lazy slob, with Rock constantly having to motivate Spud through some kind of junk food. The two had such a great chill personality. I just really hope they bring them back for a second season. The Daters/Haters team come in next. These two have got to be some of my favorite duos of this season. The two start out all lovey-dovey, but as the season progressed, their relationship started to tank, with Stephanie constantly trying to injure Ryan, so as a result, Ryan just starts essentially agreeing with everything she says. Ultimately, in the end, they managed to make ends meet and get back together. These two had such funny moments throughout the show, one of my favorites being where Ryan accidentally loses both of the rowing oars. Seriously, this season had such amazing duos that worked so well off each other, and Ryan and Stephanie fit that category perfectly. Now we have the mother-daughter team, Kelly and Taylor. I absolutely hated this team. Like Dakota, but much worse, Taylor is a spoiled rich girl who is used to getting everything she wants, to the point of her thinking she's the greatest of everything, and even causing her to be a bully to her own mother, Kelly, who isn't really any better since she doesn't do any disciplining to Taylor in any way until the episode they are eliminated in. Even though they start to become a better team at the end, I still don't think it makes up for what we saw all throughout the season. Next is Jerry and Pete, the tennis players. These two are constantly trying to one-up each other, and they are actually pretty funny. Not on the level of Ryan and Stephanie, but they were still funny enough to where I would count them as decent characters. They don't last too long, but for what screen time they got, I'd say it worked out pretty well. Now we have the Geniuses team, Elodie and Mary. The two were incredibly smart, and their plan was to, I guess, outsmart the other contestants. However, the two would constantly argue about how the plan would actually go down, with Elodie saying everything must be perfect. I'm pretty neutral to them. They're not good characters or bad characters in my opinion. I will say though, it was pretty cool to see the voice of Courtney, Emily Claire Barlow, to come back and do the voice of Elodie, so bonus points for that. Diving into the Surfers team, we have Jeff and Brody. Now I already talked about Jeff, so we'll just dive into Brody. He worked very well off of Jeff, with the two always wanting to kick back and have a blast out of the challenges. They even get chosen by the Best Friends team to come back in the competition, which they end up being a runner-up/winner. All in all, Brody is a pretty solid character, and I do really hope they, bring him back for another season. Speaking of the Best Friends team, we have Devin and Carrie. Funny enough, Carrie has loved Devin since they were little kids, so all throughout the show she's constantly trying to get Devin to notice her. However, Devin unfortunately has a girlfriend named Shelly, who is all he can think about. It isn't until the end where he finally realizes the truth, and the two finally get together. It's just so satisfying and rewarding to watch play out. Crimson and Ennui, also known as the Goth team, were also one of the coolest characters in the entire show. The two really portrayed the Goth stereotype very well, basically a much darker version of Gwen. They didn't really fear much of anything, and they were constantly making the challenges look like a breeze. If I could pick only 5 teams to come back, this duo is going to be one of them. No debate. Next is the sisters team, another one of my personal favorites. Emma was all for being the serious one out of the two, with her constantly telling Kitty to focus on the challenge, while Kitty just wants to take some selfies and have some fun. Emma's relationship with Noah was really wholesome, and I'm really glad they finally gave Noah the chance to be in the spotlight, and it's one of the best relationships in the entire Total Drama franchise in my opinion. Getting to the final two teams of the Ridonculous Race, we have the Ice Dancers. Not only are they one of my favorite antagonists throughout all of Total Drama, but are two of my favorite Total Drama characters as well. The two stopped at nothing to come out on top, even if it resorted to cheating or even hurting other contestants. Jock was the comic relief out of the two, but he's just as diabolical as Jose was. Well, Jose was the brains and serious one out of the two. I don't think I could have asked for a better antagonist this season. They were just that good. If they were for whatever reason to not bring them back, I don't know man, that might be a deal breaker for me. Lastly, for the Ridonculous Race, we have the police cadets, Sanders and MacArthur. To me, they felt like the protagonists this season, with them constantly trying to battle the Ice Dancers. Sanders resembles the good cop, always trying to win fair and square, while MacArthur resembles the bad cop, always wanting to use her badge and police status as a way to get advantages and challenges. They were one of the best teams this season, and they worked very well as the protagonists. We of course can't forget about the hosts and staff, so now let's just get started with Dawn. I'm really glad they decided to go with a new host for the Ridonculous Race, since that's what makes the most sense to me, since after all it's a spin-off series, and it switched up the formula quite a bit. Dawn was pretty laid back, didn't just make up the rules as he went along, kinda like how Chris did at times. While I wouldn't go as far to say he's better than Island Chris, he's definitely a better host for anything past World Tour, in my opinion at least. For the staff, we have Chris's no-named interns, and Chef Hatchet. There's not really much else to say about the interns other than the one time they get their revenge on Chris by turning on the sewage pipes when Chris gets trapped in the restroom. Oh, and I can't forget he literally made them starve in All-Stars. Poor interns, All-Stars really is the worst of the worst. Now we have an actual character, Chef Hatchet. He's basically Chris's sidekick who has an army background, constantly trying to prove he's the head honcho, especially in the episode Basics Training. He also tried to form an alliance with DJ to try and split the money with him, however it ultimately backfires with DJ later confessing the truth. Then in World Tour he helps Blamely cheat for a short amount of time. Out of all characters too, Blamely, I hate you. He also had his rivalry with Izzy and so much more. Other than all that, I absolutely loved his character, and to me it's not even Total Drama without Chef. He really is a key figure to the show, and he shouldn't ever be replaced or taken out. Lastly, at the very end, we have the host of Total Drama, Chris McLean. He is a fantastic host in the first 3 seasons, most notably in Island though, since that's when he cared most about the contestants, but after World Tour, he just became entirely fixated on doing anything he could to hurt the contestants, which is a real shame, because as you're watching the series as a whole, you're just left wondering what happened to this man, why did he turn out like this? It's a question we'll probably never know the answer to. Hopefully when the reboot comes out, they'll just go back to basics. Alright viewers, that crosses off my thoughts on every single Total Drama character on our list. As I said again, thank you so much for over 1,000 subscribers. If these videos continue to get more support on them, who knows, eventually I will do a ranking of every single Total Drama episode ever. And with all that said, I look forward to seeing you with our next list.